Hey folks, my name is Emily and this is 108 Stitches, episode 3. This is a mostly knitting video podcast with some other crafty things that I may dabble in and a tiny bit of baseball. I live in Seattle, Washington with my husband Nofus and our pup Norman. And welcome back to episode 3 if you're returning, and thank you so much for all of the kind words and support and, subscribes and likes and all of that. Have really enjoyed hearing from all of you, and just, again, I think I mentioned this last time, but, it makes me feel really good about my choice to kind of put some of this stuff online, because other people, I guess, are watching it, and it seems like it's making other people happy and bringing joy into their lives, and that was really like the best case scenario for me, so that makes me feel really good and happy about that. So I guess to kind of jump into it, it was a really rough week for me this week, and before I get into too much of that, I guess I just want to say, maybe this is weird of me, but I kind of think about this as almost like a new relationship or like a new friendship. And since this is episode 3, I feel like, maybe we've hung out a couple of times and it's gone really well, but it's still kind of like new and fresh. And I'm still like, I don't know, maybe this is not relatable, but considering that I'm like generally a pretty anxious person, I'm still like trying to make sure that you all like me, and like I don't want to say anything or do anything that like, pushes you away, I guess, if that makes sense. So before I get into like kind of the mess that was the last couple days and this last week, I guess I've been thinking about how much of this I wanted to share and how much I wanted to talk about, and I always really appreciate and love when podcasters are like really open about things that are happening in their lives and like their struggles, and it does kind of like fit in with the knitting, so I thought that I would go for it. So hopefully it's okay, and I'm not like, I'm not jumping the gun here, because I'm still pretty new and fresh. Oh, Norman is coming to say hi. Come here, buddy. Oh, no, he's not going to say hi. So I guess I'll kind of go into it. So Friday was a really rough day for me. It kind of started with Thursday night. I did not sleep very well. I like woke up from a dead sleep with really awful cramps, which is maybe TMI, but I didn't sleep very well and like had trouble because of that. And so then Friday morning, just like culmination of a lot of things at work, like was pretty overwhelmed and stressed and anxious. The smoke was still really bad in Seattle this week, so things are better now. Today is Sunday. I think it's September 20th. So things are much better today, and yesterday the smoke has kind of cleared out, and that's been really nice. But most of last week the smoke was still really bad, and I still had to go outside a couple times a day to take Norman out. So every time I went outside, it just was like wild, the impact on like my body and my breathing. And I felt like early last week I was getting sick, and I think it was because of the smoke. So that was really brutal. And then just with the end of the season coming, there's like a lot. There's a lot to do at work. There's a lot that we have to do to prepare our players for the off season, and just to kind of like wrap up the season. So there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I was feeling really overwhelmed. And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm a pretty anxious person, and so sometimes like a lot of that stress and feeling overwhelmed, I don't deal with super well. I'm a lot better than I used to be, but like I'll have physical repercussions of like anxiety, like I'll feel like I am having trouble breathing, or just will have a lot of tightness in my chest. And so that was kind of how Friday was going for me to begin with. So I was just really, really overwhelmed and, feeling anxious and stressed. The smoke and all of that. And then I ended up having to work a lot later than I thought I was going to have to. And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and that was really not news that I wanted to hear. That was really brutal to hear. So ended up working pretty late until 8:30 or 9 o'clock on Friday night, and then before bed I really just wanted to get maybe 1 hour of knitting in to kind of calm down. And I think other people do this, and I've heard other folks talk about it, and Stacy of Stress Knits actually named her yarn company and podcast after this. But definitely when I'm feeling anxious and stressed, knitting is a place that I go to, just because, I don't know, it's kind of soothing or calming in some way, just the act of doing something that is almost really repetitive and almost monotonous, but still I don't know, making something with my hands. I don't know if this makes any sense to people, but I definitely go to knitting when I'm feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, and so I was really excited to do that. And I had finished the socks for my Grammy that I've shared the last couple of podcasts. So the Hermione's Everyday socks, I'd finished them, and I decided I was going to weave the ends in and block them so that I can mail them to her this weekend, because her birthday, I believe, is on Thursday of this upcoming week. So I was weaving in the ends, and I went to trim an end that I had just woven in, and I cut a massive hole in her sock, her finished sock. And I've never done that before. I don't know if it's just the nature of how awful I was feeling, and I was not paying close enough attention, and it was late and I was tired, and I just cut a hole in her sock, and it was in the ribbing at the top of the sock. And at first I tried to fix it, and I made it worse. And then I thought, okay, I'll just kind of pull out the top and I'll pick up the stitches. But of course it's hard because I did the socks top down, so it was really hard to do it that way. Pulling out was really hard, and picking up, and then the stitches wouldn't quite be right. Marvin is back. So I ended up ripping out the entire sock. And because her birthday is next week and I have to mail them to her, the only way that I was going to be able to get these done in time was this. So this was Friday night. The only way I was going to be able to get them done is if I knit a sock in 24 hours. If I knit it and finished it by Saturday night. And maybe for some of you that doesn't seem super fast. I know some people knit crazy fast and knit socks really fast. And for some of you that may seem impossible. For me, that was right on the line between doable and no way. That's not gonna happen. That's way too much knitting. It was right there. I've knit socks fairly comfortably in 2 days, one sock in 2 days before. I've knit a pair of socks in 4 days. Sometimes, on multiple occasions I've knit a pair of socks in about a week. So, and I think the first time I knit these socks, my Grammy socks, I was knitting them at a pretty good pace. The second sock I'd even knit, I think, in 2 or 3 days. So, but one day, and then my husband in office and I are such nerds. We were thinking about we were trying to calculate how long it would take me to knit the sock based on my row rate. So how long it takes me to knit each row. I'm sorry, I'm so far into this podcast and I haven't even shown you any knitting. But the point is, somehow I did it. Yesterday I knit an entire sock. I don't know which one of these it is. But I finished my Grammy socks. They're still a little bit damp. They're on blockers right now because they're blocking out. Hopefully they'll dry today, and then I can mail them to her on Monday. But I'm actually really proud of myself. I kind of lost all of yesterday. And if anyone's curious about our calculations, it ended up being pretty close. I think we had that it would take me around 5 hours to knit a single sock, give or take, I don't know, an hour. And I don't know, like I didn't time myself, but of active knitting time, I think that was probably close to right. When I'm like cruising, it takes me about 1.5 minutes to knit a row, I think. And so the cuff had like 70 something stitches, including the ribbing and the leg all the way down. I had like 70 stitches, and then the foot, I don't remember how many stitches at least, but we did the math and figured out if we gave me like an hour for the heel, like the heel flap and turn and like part of the gusset, and then like a little less than an hour for the toe. Though I think I did the toe much faster. It doesn't matter. We did some math and it ended up being pretty close, and so it was doable for me to knit a sock in one day. But it was honestly like, I mean, on some level it was enjoyable because I'm a very goal-oriented person. Like I really enjoy setting goals for myself, and like aggressive goals. Like last year, sorry, this is super rambly today, but last year before the holidays, I had like a whole bunch of gifts that I wanted to knit for people, and I made myself a calendar. I like scheduled out my knitting time because I'm just very much that type of person. Maybe that's not a surprise considering like my background and my job and everything. I'm very much like, I think I've said this in the first episode, but I'm very much a tracker. Like I like to track things and I like to schedule things and map things out. And anyway, so that part of this was fun, and it was also fun to like say, okay, I have knit a sock now in less than 24 hours. I did start, actually I should say this, Friday night I did the cuff, I did the ribbing, and then the rest of the sock I did on Saturday. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. The socks, I will tell you what they are. The pattern is Hermione's Everyday Socks by Erica Luder. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I think lots and lots of people have knit these. Really happy with the pattern. I did make a couple modifications that I forgot to mention the last couple times I talked about them. I did a slip stitch heel, which I don't know if you can see. Try to hold this up a little bit, but I did a slip stitch heel. Cover my face. And I also did a wedge toe. I think the pattern has a rounded toe. And then the yarn, again, is Woolberry Fiber Company in their Berry Merino base. And the colorway is called Blushing Bride. And if you're interested in a little bit of a story as to why I chose this color and why it's so meaningful to me and to my grandmother, I talked about that in the first episode. So, yeah, this is my only finished object for the week. So there's that. So yeah, let's, I guess, get into works in progress. I'm sorry if you can hear that. Norman has his toy and is kind of like jumping around. So you may be able to hear that, but okay, Norman is my dog. Yeah, so works in progress. Actually, I know I said that it was a really rough week, but it feels like I knit a lot this week. So early in the week, things were still going okay, and I had like really high motivation. Like last weekend, I knit a ton, and then I knit an entire sock yesterday. So it feels like I have knit quite a bit this week. But we'll start with the stuff that you've already seen. I do have a couple new cast-ons this week that I'm really excited about, but so the stuff that you've already seen, this is a shawl. It is The Girl from the Grocery Store by Joji Locatelli. And I didn't have a progress keeper in it last time when I showed you all, but I remembered like which stripe I had done, so I may not be exact, but I think, here it is. I think I don't know if you can see the progress keeper. It's right here. So I think I've done from here up since last time. I feel like I have not worked on this very much, but oh my gosh, am I in love with the colors? Sheesh, this is beautiful. This stripe, like this light colored yarn, I don't know. I mean, I hate to say something so bold as like this is my favorite yarn ever, the color, but I love it. I just love it so much. But yeah, so the yarn is Grenoe Grenoe. I don't know if it's Grenoe Fiber Company or whatever. It's just Grenoe in her 85-15 sock base. So it's 85 merino wool, 15% nylon. And it is very soft and very squishy. And I talked last time about how it's kind of slick and how I ended up like weaving all the ends in. And someone in the comments, actually, I don't remember the name, but I had a couple suggestions. Someone had suggested like doing Russian joins, and I was nervous to do that just because this yarn was so slick, and I don't have a lot of experience with it, so like maybe I'm way off here, but this yarn is like really, the only word I can think to describe it is slippery. Like the yarn feels slick, and so I was worried that it wouldn't stick, and that would make me really nervous. I would rather just like weave in the ends. But someone suggested carrying just the main color up the side, and so I had talked before about how I started and was carrying the yarn up the side so that I didn't have to weave the ends in. And I didn't like the way that the contrast color looked on the side in the like these big stripes. But I think going forward, I am going to try carrying the main color up the side. I should have done that in the first place. I don't know why I didn't, but it's only like 2 little things here, and I feel like it's not too bad. So that would save me at least 2 ends every stripe. So I'll probably start doing that. But yeah, haven't made a lot of progress on this. I love the yarn, but I hate weaving in all the ends, and I just had other stuff that I was more excited about knitting. So that is that. And again, that is The Girl from the Grocery Store by Hohi Locatelli, and I'm doing that as a part of her fall knit along. And those are on US size 7 needles. These are my Addie interchangeable set. Okay, so now the new cast-ons. Yeah. So I started a new sock. I actually started the sock after I had finished my Grammy socks the first time. And I hadn't woven in the ends yet, but I started a new sock. And then I stole the needle from this when I had to knit the sock yesterday, and I just put it back on last night. But this is the Poet Socks by Sari Nordlund. And the yarn is, I'm going to have to hold this up to show you all because it is gorgeous. You can't even really see the lace pattern yet, but it is so pretty. I don't know how much you can see that. There we go. This is already just so gorgeous. I was hoping to be able to get a whole like pattern repeat done for y'all so that you could see it. Oh, and this stitch marker is from Hello Lavender. It is from the collaboration that she did with Explorer Knits. And this is the Duomo stitch marker. Anyway, yeah, so this is these are the Poet Socks. I was hoping that I could finish one full repeat, but that's like 48 rows, so it would have been quite a bit. So I could show you all, but didn't get that done because my knitting time yesterday was monopolized by a sock. Just knitting that sock. So the yarn here is Woolberry Berry Sock. Woolberry Fiber Company in the Pink Canyon colorway, which was part of their desert collection. Here it is in the cake. It is just the most gorgeous, like, it's like a, I don't know if you can see that. It's almost like an orangey, like, dusty pink. Sorry, this is awful. It's just me holding up fuzzy yarn. But it's like a orangey pink, like muted. Oh, I don't know why I keep thinking like smoky kind of color. Come back to me. Hello. Maybe I should not hold my hand out. There we go. Anyway, really happy with this. I love this stitch pattern by Starry Nordland. She has it in a couple of other patterns. She has a couple sweaters. I think she has a poet sweater and a poetria sweater. And then she also has a poet shawl, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And I have yarn for the shawl and one of the sweaters because I love the stitch pattern so much. But I wanted to start with the sock. I think I mentioned this at some point, but I have this thing where before I knit kind of like a big project with a new technique, I really like to do like a smaller trial project first. So before I knit my plumpy shawl, I had never done 2-color brioche before. I had done like 1-color brioche, fisherman's rib or whatever it's called, but I'd never done 2-color brioche, so I just did like a 2-color brioche cowl. And then I also knit a colorwork like t-shirt as part of a knit along earlier this year, and I'd never done colorwork before, so I did like a small colorwork cowl. And I'm planning to knit in the future like the Water Bearer sweater by Jacqueline C. Slack, and she has like a kind of like a headband that is similar, this like similar stitch pattern with the brioche, and I'm planning to knit that before I knit the sweater as well. So anyway, I just always like to kind of do a little bit, dip my toe in the water a little bit before I get started, just to make sure, honestly, more than anything, that I like it, that I like that technique. So I decided to do the socks first for the stitch pattern rather than the shawl or the sweater first, just because I wanted to see if I liked it. Like I wanted to see if I liked this like lace cable-y, I guess it's not really cable, it's just lace, this like lace pattern. So I like it so far. I'm excited to get a matching set of socks and sweater and shawl. Different colors, different yarn, but still like all the same stitch pattern. And Woolberry's Berry sock base is actually 80% superwash BFL and 20% nylon. I've never used BFL before, or at least not in sock yarn. I think I may have in like a sweater or something before, but it's really nice. It's the cake. It feels a little bit different than your normal like merino sock yarn. It's like, it's not quite as like buoyant, if that makes sense. It's not as like squish springy. It feels like it has more, I don't know, like body to it, I guess. I don't know if yarn is hard to describe with words, but that's my best. So anyway, and those are on my ChowGoo 9-inch circulars, US 1.5, which is I think 2.5 millimeter needles. So yeah, really happy with that. And then my big work in progress for the week, yeah, so I guess I'll give a little bit of background on this. The reason I started knitting this, I'm knitting the Rift Tee by Jacqueline C. Slack. The reason that I'm knitting this is almost entirely because of Stacy from the Stress Knits podcast. I have been watching like back episodes of her podcast and had been kind of like watching from the beginning all the way through. And last week I was watching earlier this year when she was doing the Rift knit along. And I'd already been kind of thinking about knitting this pattern, and just hearing her talk about it, it made me want to knit it so bad. And I already had yarn in my stash that I wanted to use, so I decided to cast one on. And also, if you're not watching Stacy already, you definitely should be. I love her. I love her podcast, and I love her yarn. And I have several projects in my head planned with her yarn, so I'm hoping to get some soon. So you may see that in the next couple months or so. But yeah, so I cast on and on the last Sunday, and I have been cruising, I feel like. I don't know, maybe this isn't that fast, but here it is. This is the Rift Tee, again, by Jacqueline C. Slack. I'm knitting the size small, I believe, and to get gauge, I'm using a US 9. I think the pattern calls for an 8, but I'm using a 9, which I don't know how many millimeters that is. And yeah, I just split for the sleeves and started knitting. I think this is the front. I'm knitting the front now. This pattern is incredible. It's really well written and it has so many modifications. Like you can really make it your own, I feel like. So the things that I did that are a little bit different, so there's like a split hem and the pattern calls for you to do, it's like supposed to be a little bit of a high-low hem. So the front hem is supposed to be, I think, like 1.75 inches and the back hem is supposed to be 3 inches. But there are also multiple necklines that you can do for this pattern. There's a boat neck and then like a V-neck. And I decided that what I wanted to do was make the shirt reversible. So I did both the front and the back hem, like close to 2 inches. And then I'm going to do boat neck on one side and V-neck on the other so that I can decide which way I want to wear it each time. So the yarn this is yarn that I actually got a while back when I lived in Oklahoma. I worked at a yarn store in Norman, Oklahoma called LMB Yarn Company, and I don't think they are open anymore, which is really sad, but I bought this yarn there and have just I had another project that I originally had like cast on for and I didn't like it. I don't remember even the pattern. It was like a scarf and I wasn't enjoying it and I wasn't liking it with this yarn. So I ripped it out and had just been kind of waiting, and I feel like this pattern is perfect for this yarn. So the yarn is Rowan Lima in the Peru colorway, and it is 84% baby alpaca, 8% merino wool, and 8% nylon, and it feels amazing. It is so soft and it is so squishy. It is, I think, 110 yards per 50 gram ball. And I think that makes it like somewhere between a DK and worsted, maybe just a worsted weight, which is a little heavier than this pattern calls for, but I got gauge and I'm really happy with the fabric. It's like a little denser, I think, than it's intended to be, but it is so gorgeous. I'm a little bit nervous that I'm going to run out of yarn because I have literally the exact amount of yards that I need for my size. I think it calls for 550 yards. And I have 5 110 gram or 110 yard balls. So I have exactly 550 yards. So I'm nervous, but I think I'm going to be okay. I'm on my 3rd ball right now, and I started the front. So if I can use the rest of this ball for the front, and then I should have 1 ball for the back, and like the sleeves aren't very long, I think I'm actually going to have quite a bit of extra. So should be all good. But this yarn is actually a chain ply, I think is what it's called. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe. There it goes. Yeah, so you can see that. So it's like it's a chain ply yarn, and it just makes this gorgeous texture. Oh man, almost all my projects, my husband in office likes to give them almost little nicknames based on foods. And I had suggested to him that this be the oatmeal shirt, or like the oatmeal sweater, and he said it's porridge, which is like the same thing, but yeah. So this is my porridge shirt. But yeah, the stitch pattern, like the yarn is knitting up beautifully. I love this detail down the side, the twisted rib detail. So this is twisted rib on the bottom, and there's like a twisted rib detail on the side, which is just gorgeous, and I'm really excited to have this. I wish I had knit this a little bit earlier in the year, because then I would have been able to wear it a little bit more when it was warmer, but I am definitely still going to wear it even in like the fall. Even if I have to layer it, I'm really excited about this. So yeah, that is my rift. So that is all I have for works in progress. And that's all I have for the knitting content. Oh no, sorry. I have acquisitions. I forgot about that. Okay, let me just turn my page here. 2 acquisitions this week. One is yarn and one is not knitting related, but I wanted to show you anyway. But this yarn I'm really excited about. So Some of you may have seen me post about this on my Instagram and my stories. Oh, Norm is coming over, which is so funny because the picture that I posted in my stories was of Norm. He was originally just like sniffing it when it came in, and then I like went to take a picture and he like stuck his tongue out. He did a little lick of the yarn, so I thought it was funny. He was coming over just now. He likes the smell, I think. But this is my first ever Brooklyn Tweed yarn. So this is Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is their fingering weight yarn, or actually I think they have multiple now, but this is like their fingering weight tweed yarn in the iceberg colorway, which is just gorgeous. I'm so in love with this color right now, this like really pale blue, almost gray. I love this color so much, but yeah, it also has like little flecks of like darker blue, and I don't know if you can see that at all. Yeah, it has like little flecks of darker blue and like brighter bits. Anyway, it's just gorgeous. And I got 6 skeins of it. Each skein is 50 grams. And I am planning to make, like I mentioned earlier, the Poet Shawl by Sari Nordlund. And I'm really excited about it. I wanted to cast this on right away, but I decided that I wanted to do the socks first, just so that I would have a little bit of a trial with the pattern. And I think I mentioned this before as well. I like to have 3 projects at a time. I like to have a pair of socks, and I like to have a garment, and then I like to have some sort of like shawl or wrap or scarf or something. And since I'm knitting the girl from the grocery store, I already have a shawl, so I didn't want to cast on another shawl. It doesn't really matter. I could, and it wouldn't, like, it would be fine. But for some reason, I just kind of like to manage my projects that way. So once I finish the girl from the grocery store and the poet socks, this will be next. And I'm really excited about it. I love this yarn. I'm really excited to use it for the first time. I know people have differing opinions on Brooklyn Tweed, but I really do like the way that it feels, and I think it's just going to make the most gorgeous shawl. Hopefully it'll be like nice and drapey, so. And also warm, and the stitch definition will be good, and I just love this color. Anyway, I'm very excited about that. So that was my yarn acquisition. And then my other acquisition this week was yesterday. I posted about this on my Instagram stories as well, if you saw that. But like I talked about before, I had a really, really rough day on Friday, and we went to the grocery store yesterday morning, which was Saturday, and I don't impulse buy things very often, but I impulse bought this beautiful Maiden hair fern. Wow. I love it so much. It's so cute, and I'm so excited about it. I know that these plants can be a little bit finicky, and I'm really nervous that I'm going to kill it because, honestly, how ironic. Like, I bought this plant to make me feel better because of how rough my day and week and, like, just things in general had been. And then if I killed it, that would make me so sad. So I'm really hoping that I don't. But I really love indoor plants, and I guess I can do a little story about this. We used to live in an apartment in Redmond, Washington, which is a little bit closer to Nofis's work and a little farther from mine. And our apartment, we had like a little 1-bedroom apartment, and just the way that the apartment was positioned, like the way it was facing and the buildings around it, and there was also this like giant like shrub bush covering the one window we had. That apartment got like no light. It was seriously a cave. It was so dark. And so when I moved here to Washington, I really wanted to get plants, and I wanted to grow plants, and just like having plants in my house and in my life made me so happy. I got a whole bunch of plants, and they just kept dying. They just kept dying because they didn't have any sun. And it made me so sad. And then we moved to this place in February, and I decided, okay, we're going to have sun. I'm going to get a whole bunch more plants, and it's going to go better this time. And it has. I'm keeping plants alive. I mean, they're thriving. Plants that were nearly dead in our previous apartment are doing so well. Like, I have a money tree, and it was nearly dead. It had like one leaf left, and now it is huge. I mean, it has massive leaves, like bigger than my head leaves. I actually moved it yesterday, so I also have like a fiddle leaf fig, which is pretty big. And I put my money tree, it had been somewhere else, and I put it next to my fiddle leaf fig, and I did not realize that it was like as tall as my fiddle leaf fig. So yeah, anyway, this is, again, really rambly, and I'm sorry, but I am really proud of myself for keeping these plants alive, and it has given me a lot of joy in this time, and like in quarantine, and also just in my life. And so I decided to get myself a maiden hair fern because it's gorgeous and I love it so much, and I'd been thinking about one for a while, and I was really nervous when I moved here. I didn't know if I was going to be able to keep plants alive, and I have. I've kept all my plants alive, and they're doing very well. And so I decided that I was ready and it was time. And so I got a maiden hair fern, and I love ferns. I love ferns. I don't know why I love ferns. Actually, I do know why I love ferns. When I was in college, I took a plant biology class, and we learned about ferns and how they reproduce, which is different from other plants. They have like spores. I'm sorry, this is so rambly and probably so boring for everyone, but yeah, I learned a lot about ferns in this plant biology class, and then I remember like coming home and telling Nafis, my boyfriend at the time, telling him like about ferns. And it just like kind of became a joke how obsessed I was with ferns. And now every time we go hiking or like we go outside, like up here around the Pacific Northwest, there are ferns everywhere, and I love them. And my friend actually got me a little print that has like different ferns on it. It's actually stuck at my office right now, which is a bummer. And I haven't been to my office in like 6 or 7 months. But anyway, wow, that was way off. But I got a fern. A maiden hair fern, and it's gorgeous, and I really hope that I keep it alive. So there's that, and that is my last acquisition. So I feel like this has been kind of long, and I'm gonna try not to go super long. Life-wise, I feel like I already kind of got into it at the beginning. It was a rough week. There's not a lot that happened outside of what I already said. Work has been a lot. The smoke was brutal. We hadn't left the house very much except to walk Norman. The only other thing, I guess I'll say, I've been sharing like the different breakfasts we've been making, and so this weekend, actually I'm recording really early on Sunday morning, so as soon as I finish recording, we're going to make breakfast, and we're going to make pumpkin pancakes. So today is September 20th, which I think is officially the first day of fall. And so I decided yesterday it was fall. I like lit a fall candle, and we made pumpkin pasta sauce, which was really good. I liked it a lot. So it's fall now. I've decided to leave summer behind. And I'm excited about that. I like fall. I like fall candles, like fall scents and fall foods. And yeah, so we're going to make pumpkin pancakes this morning. That should be really good. And then the only other life thing is that football is back, college football. So Nafis and I both went to the University of Oklahoma. We grew up in Norman, Oklahoma. So OU football does not play this weekend, but last weekend they did, and they absolutely demolished. It was a good game. It was a good game for OU. New OU quarterback Spencer Rattler looked very good. Oh, Norman, thank you so much. He brought me his toy. It's a little sloth, but he has ripped off one of the arms, so I'll just throw that for him. The best thing, I'm sorry, I'm so rambly today, but the best thing about this new place, okay, maybe not the best thing, but one of the best things is we have stairs. And so when Norman wants to play and brings me his toy, I just throw it right over here, and it goes all the way down the stairs, and then he has to run down the stairs to get it and bring it back up, and it's just like built-in extra exercise, so that's really nice. Anyway, football's back. I play in a couple fantasy football leagues, one with my family, like I mentioned before, and like one with my coworkers. So we've been watching football. That's probably what we'll do some of today. Football is, and sports in general. I mean, of course I like sports. I love baseball, but one of my very favorite activities is watching sports and knitting. I don't know. I feel like they go together so well. And some of you in the comments have been saying similar things about baseball, which I love to hear, which is amazing. So I guess I will transition into my final section, which is my baseball section. A couple things I wanted to mention this week. Well, I can show you my baseball socks, although the Cardinals sock is in the same place that it was last week, and the Mariners sock, I am up to date. I was planning to do this yesterday, but again, I knit the whole sock yesterday instead. But this is the Mariners sock. It's a little bit longer. You can see there's a little bit of a blue at the top here because they won yesterday. And then the Cardinal sock is in the same position as it was last time. I'm sorry, if you're new, I should say what these are. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but these are my baseball socks. I basically knit. I work for the Mariners. I work as a baseball analyst for the Seattle Mariners. So, and then I grew up a St. Louis Cardinals fan. So based on the result of each baseball game, I knit a different colored stripe in my sock. So the season this year is 60 games. So I'll have 60 rows on each leg, and they'll be striped according to the results of the Mariners season and the Cardinals season. So yellow on both socks means that the team lost. Blue on this sock means that the Mariners won, and red on this sock means that the Cardinals won. So those are my baseball socks. Other baseball things from the last week. Albert Pujols, who, gosh, yeah, I mean, I said I grew up as a Cardinals fan. He was with the Cardinals from the beginning of his career until 2011, which 2011 is the last year that the Cardinals won the World Series. And he is just, I mean, he's in the top, I don't even know, 10 baseball players of all time. He was amazing, and I loved watching him when I was younger, and still, funny story, I'm just gonna go with the rambling, but so last year, the Mariners had a women in baseball event, and so all of the women who work in the Mariners front office, so I work in baseball operations, but even people who work in human resources or communication or ticket sales, all the women that work together to make the Mariners organization happen came together and were able to go and walk on the field, and we had a photo, and it was kind of a little special pregame ceremony. And that game, the Mariners were playing the Angels, and when I was walking through the tunnel to go onto the field, Albert Pujols just walked past me, and I almost lost it. I feel like such a dork because this is my job now. I see players sometimes, not that often, but some at spring training or other things. I will see players, but it was just seeing Albert Pujols, who was such a hero to me when I was younger and growing up. I don't know, it was massive. But anyway, I brought Albert Pujols up because he hit his 661st home run, which puts him into number 5 all time on the all-time career home run record list. You know what I mean. He's now number 5 all time in home runs, which is a huge accomplishment, and I'm so excited for him, and it's just, yeah, a huge deal. He plays for the Angels now. He no longer plays for the Cardinals, but still, I still love him, and I'm really excited for him. Yes, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was just the playoff situation for the teams that I kind of follow. So the Cardinals right now are in second place in the National League Central, which means they are in a playoff spot. The Marlins are in second place in the National League East, which means they are in a playoff spot. And the Mariners are in third place in the American League West, so they are just out of a playoff spot. They are, I think, 3 games back of the Astros. So with 8 games left to go, I believe. So it would be hard to make up that that distance, but hopefully it'll at least be like a little bit fun or exciting kind of in this last week of baseball. So yeah, one other thing I guess is just the baseball season is about to end. Oh, Norman brought me his toy. Norman, drop. Okay. Norman, yeah, is running up and down the stairs right now. Anyway, the baseball season is about to end. We have just over a week left, which is sad in some ways, and also will. I mean, it's mostly, yeah, it's sad, and I'll miss the baseball. Although I guess we'll be going to the playoffs, so that'll be fun, and hopefully at least a couple of our teams will be in there. But when the baseball season kind of wraps up, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about in this section. So if anyone has thoughts, I guess I mean, I can just leave it and not talk about baseball, and that would be fine. I can just talk about the knitting. Lots of people probably leave and don't listen to this part anyway, so that's fine. Or I was thinking I could talk about baseball from the past, or something that my family likes to do is kind of ask me baseball questions that are kind of crazy and weird. So like, for example, a question my mom has asked in the past is like, what happens if a guy hits a home run and then like dies on the base paths or like passes out or something? Like, does the run still count, and what do they do with him? And so like those kinds of questions, like kind of fun questions. So maybe I could just do something like that, or just talk about baseball things I want to talk about, or games I've watched in the past, or players that I care about. I don't know. We'll see. If anyone has thoughts, feel free to share. I'm also happy to just like stop talking about baseball. That's fine. So anyway, this has been long enough and rambly enough, and I will just go ahead and end it here. So I hope you all do lots of knitting and watch lots of baseball and have a great week. Bye.